let's get started. Thank you all and welcome to our Burrunan in our backyard presentation for Science Week 2021. So to introduce you all to the Marine Mammal Foundation, if you may not be familiar with us, the Marine Mammal Foundation is a not-for-profit research, education and conservation organisation. We conduct robust, internationally recognised research on marine mammals across Victoria, and we apply our research and our research findings to provide education and raise awareness of the incredible marine mammals and marine environments that are right here in our watery backyards here in Victoria. And we aim to protect the marine environment through our research, education and conservation, and create positive outcomes to enhance our natural environment. At the Marine Mammal Foundation, I'm incredibly privileged and fortunate to work with such an amazing team of dedicated researchers and scientists and educators, led by our founding director and head of research, Dr. Kate Robb, who you can see on the top left of the screen today. And the team, as a privilege to work with such an incredible team, all undertaking some amazing work. And as I mentioned earlier today, several of our team members are in the chat with us, so please don't hesitate to say hello. So marine mammals, why we're all here. We're so incredibly lucky to have such a huge diversity of marine mammals across Australia and here in Victoria. You may be familiar with some of them, some of the more common species, whereas you may be surprised to discover some of the marine mammals that do inhabit our Australian coastlines and Australian marine environments. Marine mammals consist of cetaceans, being dolphins and whales, porpoises, pinnipeds, being seals and sea lions, manatees, dugongs, and even sea otters and polar bears. So marine mammals are an incredibly diverse range of animals. So let's have a look at some of these marine mammals in a little bit more detail and a little bit more closely. So whales and dolphins are known as cetaceans, and they consist primarily of two suborders, baleen whales and toothed whales. So baleen whales, such as the humpback whale or blue whale, don't have teeth. Instead, they have chitinous hair-like plates in their mouths known as baleen. So imagine in your mouth, instead of where your teeth are, you have long plates of hairs made up of the same material that your fingernails are made up of. And baleen whales take large mouthfuls of water when they're feeding. And these large mouthfuls of water consist of small fish and krill. And these small fish and krill get trapped in the hairs of the baleen. And the whales then push the water out, leaving these animals left in the baleen hair. So they use the baleen to trap and filter their food through the water. In contrast, toothed whales, such as dolphins, have teeth, just like us. However, toothed whales' teeth are used a little bit differently to the way we use our teeth, where we use our teeth to chew our food. Toothed whales primarily use their teeth to catch and hold on to the fast-moving prey, such as fish or squid, in the water. And then once they've got their prey, they eat them whole. So they don't use their teeth to chew. They use them as kind of like little spears to penetrate and hold on to the fish or their prey in the water. Pinnipeds are another type of marine mammal. Pinnipeds, being seals and sea lions, still retain their evolutionary links to land, and therefore seals don't live in the water 24/7. They actually have to haul out of the water every day to eat, to rest and to sleep. And there are two different kinds of pinnipeds. There are the otarids, which are the eared seals, like our fur seals that you can see on screen here. And the otarids have a small external ear flap, and they use their foreflippers to move around on land. In contrast, the phocids, also known as the true seals, are seals like the leopard seal and the crab-eater seal, which when they're on land don't use those foreflippers for movement, and they don't have those external ear flaps. So when they're on land, they kind of look like slugs rolling around, snaking along the ground, the ice, as you can see in these Antarctic images, or on sandy beaches or on rocks. But once they get in the water, they're incredibly streamlined and agile and move incredibly well in the water. But on land, they do look a little bit different. Across the world, there are an estimated 129 different species of marine mammals, which is a huge amount, a huge diversity. However, of this 129, in Australia, we have 55 different species of marine mammals, which is a huge amount. In Victoria, where the Marine Mammal Foundation is located, we have an estimated 38 different species of marine mammals. So of the marine mammals that are found across Australia, Victoria has a huge abundance of marine mammals, which is quite surprising to a lot of people, because when many people think about our Australian coastlines, marine diversity, especially marine mammals, a lot of people do tend to think of places like Queensland, Western Australia, the tropics, Barrier Reef, and all of those, really beautiful marine environments. But the marine environment here across our southern Australian coastline, particularly in our southeast, is incredibly rich and incredibly diverse in marine mammals. However, as the ocean is so vast, it is quite difficult to spot and study marine mammals in the wild. However, there are a few ways which we can actually do this. The first way that we're able to identify marine mammals and marine mammal species is through direct sightings. So direct sightings can be made out at sea. Perhaps you're out on the water, fishing, out on your boat, and a whale pops up and appears next to you. Or perhaps sightings can be made from land. You might be down at the beach, walking along the sandy shoreline. You see a pod of dolphins swimming in the distance. Or you may be up on beautiful cliffs, such as I have here in the Mornington Peninsula, looking out at the ocean beaches and seeing whales swim past our coastline. Or you might even see seals hauled out on a local beach or on rocks, or even man-made structures like piers and jetties. So direct sightings are the easiest way to spot marine mammals. However, we're also able to use emerging technologies to assist us in researching marine mammals and identifying marine mammal species across our vast oceans. Satellite technology, along with drones and other UAVs, allow us to access and observe marine mammals' habitat and marine mammal behaviors in ways which we've been unable to previously. Other emerging technologies, such as passive acoustic monitoring, can also allow us to observe marine mammals in this way. So many marine mammals use sound to navigate and communicate under the water. So we can use underwater recording devices to track and locate marine mammals and identify marine mammal species based on these vocalizations when we're not able to see them at the surface, which is really, really amazing. And finally, another way in which we're able to identify marine mammal species and their distribution is through strandings. So sometimes marine mammals strand on land, either through live stranding, or carcasses may wash up ashore. However, these strandings are really important in allowing us to identify the distribution of marine mammal species and locate where these marine mammal species actually can be found. Where these species are washing up onto the beach can give us an indicator of areas in which they inhabit. And many of our marine mammal species that are found here in Victorian and Australian waters aren't often sighted at sea. And most of what we know about them is through stranding information. So let's get to know some of these amazing species. The first species I'd like to introduce you to is the Burrunan dolphin. Scientific name Tursiops australis, and the Burrunan dolphin is one of the world's newest dolphin species. Although we've had dolphins living right here in our local Victorian waterways, no one had actually asked the question and knew exactly what species they were. That was until 2011, when Dr. Kate asked the question, what species of dolphin inhabit our local Victorian waterways, and investigated this in more detail, and discovered that not only were these dolphins completely different to what we thought they were also completely different to every other dolphin species in the world. In the photo on screen, you can see the unique tricoloration of the Burrunan dolphin, which is an identifying characteristic and feature of the species, where they're darker grey on top, that lighter grey with that brushstroke pattern along their flanks, and then they're white on their underside. The Burrunan dolphins can grow to approximately 2 to 2.5 meters in length and generally calve in the warmer months. And so that means during the summertime, when more people are out on the water, you're more likely to see a few Burrunan dolphin calves across our Victorian coastlines. The Burrunan dolphin is incredibly special, only being found in southern and southeastern Australia. So it's distributed across right here in Victoria, obviously, South Australia, down on the east coast of Tasmania, and recent genetic confirmation of the species in Esperance in Western Australia. Here in Victoria, we know of only 2 resident populations where you can find Burrunan dolphins. The first being Port Phillip Bay, right in the centre of the state, and the other being the Gippsland Lakes over in eastern Victoria. Incredibly, in Port Phillip Bay, through our MMF research, we've been able to estimate that there are only 120 dolphins that live in Port Phillip Bay, which is an incredibly small number. In the Gippsland Lakes, there's even less, with only 65. So as you can see at the bottom left-hand side of the screen here, these animals, this species lives in such close proximity to where we live. You can see a Burrunan dolphin jumping through the waters of Port Phillip Bay with the city of Melbourne in the background. So Burrunan dolphins are found where we live in our cities, along our coastal regions, and they swim and live right where we swim and where we live, which is absolutely incredible. We're so lucky to have this incredible species right in our own watery backyards, hence the name of our presentation today. However, rather than me talking to you about them, we can actually have a look at them in a little bit more detail. So dolphins, as with all most marine mammal species, are known as cryptic species. Most of them live their lives hidden underneath the water, and we're only able to observe them for a very short amount of time when they come to the surface to breathe. However, by using technology such as underwater cameras, in this instance a GoPro, we're able to head down underneath the surface of the water and look at these incredible animals in their own environment and see the way that they move and interact and behave when we can't actually see them when they come to the surface of the water. And being able, through our work, being able to experience encounters such as this with these incredible animals is so rewarding and so amazing. The Burrunan dolphin is such a beautiful, beautiful animal, and we're so lucky to be able to work with them. There we go. So you might be wondering, how do we know that there's only 120 dolphins in Port Phillip Bay and only 65 in the Gippsland Lakes? So through our research, we use a really innovative research identification technique known as fin identification, photographic fin identification, to identify each of our individual dolphins. As you can see on screen, there's a number of different fins. And each of these fins have markings and nicks and notches which run down the trailing edge of each of those fins. And these markings are unique to each dolphin. So we can use these markings to tell each dolphin apart. As you can see, some of them have large markings, some of them have small markings, some have lots of markings, and some might only have 1 or 2. But just like we all look different and have different colored hair and different colored eyes and different freckles on our faces, and we can tell each other apart because we all look different, each of our dolphins are different and unique, and we can tell them apart from their dorsal fins. And because of our research, we spend hundreds and hundreds of hours out on the water each year working with these amazing animals, and we get to know them really, really well. So I'd like to introduce you to a few of our Burrunan dolphins. So the first Burrunan dolphin that I'd like to introduce you to, that you can see on screen, is a dolphin that we like to call Jimmy. And we call him Jimmy Fornix because you can see that Jimmy has 1, 2, 3, 4 really big markings and really easily identifiable markings on the edge of his fin. And Jimmy is a dolphin that lives out in the Gippsland Lakes, one of our resident Gippsland Lakes Burrunan dolphins. And Jimmy has been part of the population since 2006, since Dr. Kate started investigating and working with the species. And through our research, we've able to learn so much about each of our individual dolphins that help us paint a big picture around the population of Burrunan dolphins. By following and identifying Jimmy, We know what Jimmy likes to do, where he likes to go, who he likes to hang out with. His best friend is Kimmy, and Jimmy and Kimmy are always seen together. But we're also able to learn some really important things about our individual dolphins. For instance, one day we went out and undertook our research, and we saw Jimmy able to be identified by those markings on its fin. But we were quite surprised because we saw Jimmy swimming next to a baby dolphin, a dolphin calf. And we were surprised because we know that when the dolphin calves are born, the mother is responsible for caring for that calf. And the mother and the calf have a really close and special relationship, where the mother cares for the calf for between 3 and 5 years. So when we realized that Jimmy, when we saw Jimmy swimming next to a baby dolphin, we realized he wasn't actually a Jimmy, he was a Jemima. So Jimmy is actually a female Burrunan dolphin. And we can't tell our dolphins if our dolphins are male or female based on their dorsal fins. But by seeing an adult dolphin next to a dolphin calf, we're able to identify that the adult dolphin must be a female. And it's really important for us to be able to identify the males and females in our populations so that we can understand the potential for that population to grow. How much can that population reproduce each year? How many calves is that individual dolphin able to have across its lifetime? Really, really important ecological and life history information that we can learn from our individual dolphins. And so Jimmy had her calf in 2014. You can see Finn here on screen next to Jimmy. We can also identify our dolphins in other ways. This dolphin that you can see on screen on the right-hand side is another of our female dolphins in the Gippsland Lakes. And this is a dolphin that we like to call Tiger. And we call her Tiger because you can see these stripes on the side of her body. Now, those stripes, she's not a tiger dolphin, hence the name, but those stripes are what we call fetal folds. When the dolphins are in utero inside the mother, they're folded over. And then when they're born, they come out and they straighten out. And where those folds were on the skin, there's some slight pigmentation issues. But that pigmentation fades over time. However, in some of our dolphins, those fetal folds don't disappear and have remained through our dolphins into adulthood. And so we can use these fetal folds or secondary markings to be able to identify our individual dolphins. Other physical characteristics that we're able to use to identify our dolphins include things like deformities. And so you can see on the image on the screen here, you can see two dolphins, one dolphin at the front with its back and then its dorsal fin, and then another dolphin behind it with a big lump on its back. Now, this dolphin is a dolphin that we like to call Modi. And Modi is the only dolphin that we know in our population that has this lump on their back. So being able to identify these physical characteristics of our dolphins also allow us to tell who they are. And lastly, one of the last dolphins that I'd like to introduce you to is a dolphin that we call Nemo. So called like the film, his famous film namesake, because Nemo is missing or has a special pectoral fin, like Nemo in the movie. Now, Nemo is a male Burrunan dolphin, again from the Gippsland Lakes. And we've shown this image to a shark expert here in Victoria. And we've been told that this marking and this scarring that is around Nemo's missing pectoral fin is actually matches the bite mark of a great white shark. So we can assume that Nemo actually lost his fin from an encounter with a white shark, which is amazing. However, you can see Nemo on screen, nice and big, nice and fat, really big, strong, healthy male Burrunan dolphin. And you can see having a missing pectoral fin doesn't seem to be causing him too much of a problem. But it's really important for us to be able to identify our individual dolphins and who they are, because while it's great to know who they are personally and to be able to tell these amazing stories, as I said, we can learn some really amazing scientific information about our dolphins. By being able to identify our individual dolphins, we can then use their fins as kind of like a tracker and see where our dolphins are moving across their habitat. So in this image on screen here, you can see all of the places that we've been able to spot a particular Burrunan dolphin. And what we can see is that our Burrunan dolphins actually utilize the entire Port Phillip Bay as habitat. And then we can use this information and break it down even further. And we can break this sighting of our dolphins down by different seasons. So we can see in the summer, autumn, winter, spring. And we can see how our dolphins are changing their location through the different seasons and investigate why they might be doing that. Are there certain habitats that have more resources, more prey available at certain times of the year? Are there certain habitats that our dolphins are undertaking certain behaviors in? Are our dolphins feeding in certain areas? Are they nursing calves in certain areas? So being able to identify our individual dolphins and what they're doing in their habitat has really provided us with some really important information for the conservation of these species. And we can then also align the knowledge of what our dolphins are doing with the habitat itself. So this image that you can see on screen here demonstrates all the sites that we've seen dolphins feeding across the Gippsland lakes. And so we've been able to identify the areas that are important for Burrunan dolphin feeding behavior. And then we can ask the question, okay, why are they doing this? What's the ecological significance of these areas where our dolphins are feeding? And so we can look at the habitat of the area, such as seagrass. And what we've been able to do is identify that our Burrunan dolphins are undertaking feeding behavior in areas that are high in seagrass. And this makes ecological sense because we know that our dolphins like to feed on fish, and fish like to use seagrass habitats as nursery areas and as a bit of protection and like to live in seagrass areas. So by understanding our Burrunan dolphins and their behaviors, we're able to identify environments of significance. And our Burrunan dolphins can be used as what are known as an umbrella species to protect all of the environments and all of the other marine species that fall below them that make up their ecosystem. However, we can also, as I mentioned at the start, we can also use emerging technologies to investigate and explore our Burrunan dolphins. Okay, so as I said, we've got recording stations set up across Port Phillip Bay and the Gippsland Lakes, recording the soundscape and recording our Burrunan dolphins. And we're able to use these recordings to identify when we have Burrunan dolphins in certain areas because of their communication and echolocation. And through this, we've been able to record the sounds of our Burrunan dolphins using their echolocation. And I've got a small little video that I'll play for you now. Hopefully you can all hear down if I've set it up correctly. So, as you would have heard, that was the sounds of our Burrunan dolphins using their echolocation under the water. Many people think they know what dolphins sound like because of movies and TV shows. But the Burrunan dolphins have a broad range of acoustic sounds echolocation sounds that they make, squeaks and chirping, which you would have heard in the video there, buzzing, barking. And each of these different sounds is associated with a different behavior. When they're communicating with each other, when they're hunting and foraging for prey, they're using different sounds to undertake these behaviors. And so by recording these sounds, we're able to learn about our Burrunan dolphins, as I said, when they're down underneath the water where we can't see them. And furthermore, other emerging technologies that we're able to use are things like drones. So at Marine Mammal Foundation, we're investigating the use of drones in marine mammal research, along with studying the impact of drones and UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles. Currently, drones and UAVs are classified as helicopters and must remain 500 meters above all marine mammal species as per the regulations. But through our research permits, we're exploring this new technology and working to see if these regulations need to be amended. And as this technology becomes more accessible to the public, it also becomes more accessible to us as researchers. And we're able to use this technology in new and innovative ways. And as you can see, we're able to capture such of the most incredible, beautiful footage of these dolphins from a perspective that we wouldn't normally be able to get. You can see our research vessel there. So usually when we're undertaking our research, we're at sea level. But by using a drone, we're able to get up nice and high and see what the dolphins are doing in a completely new perspective. We can see the composition of their pod. We can see how they're moving. We can see what behaviors they're undertaking, how these behaviors are changing, the interactions between these the individuals. It's absolutely amazing. And the footage that we're able to get is incredibly beautiful. And off they go, zooming off out of frame. So those are our Burrunan dolphins very, very briefly. But as I mentioned, we have an incredibly huge diversity of marine mammals that are found right here in Australia, and particularly right here in Victoria. Another species that I'd like to introduce you to is the short-beaked common dolphin, also known as Delphinus delphus. Now, the short-beaked common dolphin is a little bit smaller than the Burrunan dolphin, measuring at about 1.5 meters in length. And these guys are super fast and super zippy. As you can see, they look quite different to our Burrunan dolphins. They have a long pointy rostrum and a long pointy dorsal fin. And they have this beautiful gold or yellow coloration on their flanks, which is a unique characteristic to the species. However, common dolphins are found all over the world, and which is why they're called common dolphins. And common dolphins are actually well known for forming superpods, which occurs when hundreds, if not thousands of common dolphins all aggregate together. So imagine seeing hundreds or thousands of dolphins all swimming and moving together, herding in the same direction. And while you can find common dolphins across the coastline of Australia, here in Victoria, we actually have a small population of around 30 common dolphins living in Port Phillip Bay, just off the Mornington Peninsula, which is quite unique because the species is more predominantly known as an oceanic species. So it's quite unique that here in Victoria and in Melbourne, we have a small resident group in an inshore region. But again, rather than me talking about them, we can actually have a look at them in action. And so here are our short-beaked common dolphins. As I said, they're super fast and super zippy. They move through the water a little bit differently to the Burrunan dolphins. Clearly, that's not a dolphin, but he's doing his very best to be one. And this footage that we've taken here was taken on a research field trip while we're on our boat, and the dolphins are undertaking a behavior that's known as bow riding. Some of you may have been out on the water on your own boats and experienced the dolphins coming over and riding in the bow wake at the front of the boat. It's a really amazing, incredible experience, allowing the dolphins the opportunity to choose to interact with you, allowing them to approach you rather than you approaching them. And they come and use that bow wave to come and surf in the wave, but also move a little bit faster through the water. However, it's more than just our small dolphins that we have in our coastline. Many people are also really surprised to learn that we have orcas here in Australia and here in Victoria. Also known as killer whales, the orcas can be found across the entirety of our Victorian coastline, anywhere, anytime. However, the name killer whale is actually a little bit misleading because orcas aren't actually whales. They're actually the largest species of dolphin. Measuring 8 to 10 meters in size, they're absolutely huge. And to give you an indication of the size, we can actually tell, unlike our dolphins, with our orcas, we can actually tell the difference between our males and our females. Females tend to have more of a smaller curved dorsal fin, like a traditional dolphin, whereas male orcas will have these larger vertical dorsal fins, which measure about 2 meters in length. So the dorsal fin of a male orca is taller than the average human, which is crazy. These guys are massive. And as I said, they can be seen across our Victorian and southeastern Australian coastlines anywhere, anytime. Another species of dolphin, really interesting species of dolphin that's found in our waterways, and one that not many people have heard of, the Risso's dolphin. Measuring around 4 meters in length, the Risso's dolphin are actually really interesting because they're actually born black. And you can see on this image on screen at the back there's a little Risso's dolphin calf, which is black. but then the adult dolphin next to it looks quite white. And as they age, the Risso's dolphin undertake social behavior where they bite and they scratch and they nip at each other, and they form scars across their bodies. And so the older the dolphin gets, the whiter and more scarred it becomes. So we can estimate the age of the species based on its coloration and the amount of scars that it has on its body, which is really, really interesting. And these guys predate mainly upon cephalopods, so octopus and squid, and cuttlefish. And continuing on with our toothed whales, we also have sperm whales here in Victoria. The most well-known are the sperm whales themselves, which are the largest toothed animal on the planet. They're deep diving animals, and they predate primarily upon giant squid. And sperm whales are just absolutely fascinating animals. While they're quite difficult to spot in the wild, sperm whales have been known to strand along our coastlines in southeastern Australia. Most recently here in Victoria, in March of this year, we actually had a sperm whale that stranded in Phillip Island along our Victorian coastline. We also have the pygmy sperm whale and the dwarf sperm whale as well, both of which are not well known, and most of what we know about them is through strandings, as I mentioned a little bit earlier today. And so the stranding record and being able to identify species through strandings is really, really important. And moving on from our sperm whales and continuing that trend of larger animals, we're now moving into our baleen whales. And we do have a number of much larger marine mammals that do visit and inhabit our southern Australian coastline. And many people are often surprised to learn, even Victorians are very surprised to learn, that we do have whales quite commonly across our Victorian coastline. Firstly, this is the humpback whale, one of the most famous whale probably on the planet. The humpback whale can grow up to around 18 meters in length, which is the equivalent of around one and a half buses. So next time you're out on the road and you see a bus driving past, imagine that bus underneath the water, to give you an indication of just how big these animals are. They're absolutely huge. Humpback whales are easily identified by their long and slender pectoral fin. And as I said, humpback whales are known as baleen whales. You can see the large pleats on the underside of its jaw, which as it opens its mouth, those pleats extend out so it can take those huge mouthfuls of water which contain krill and small fish. Fortunately, while out on our research, we have been fortunate enough to come across a few humpback whales across our time, as we were last year in the winter of 2020. While out on research in Port Phillip Bay, we did see a humpback whale. And you can see, sort of, despite being such massive animals, they're actually quite difficult to spot, even when they're right next to the boat. They just disappear underneath the water, and they do pop up, and you can see them there, see it there, resurfacing, just investigating us, seeing what we were doing. However, humpback whales don't live along the southern Australian coastline. Humpback whales are actually a migratory species, and they do actually make an annual migration from the polar regions to the tropics and back each year. Here in Victoria, the southeastern Australian population spends the summer down in Antarctica, where they're feeding in the abundance of krill in the region at that time of the year. And then as the summer ends and the winter comes, the humpbacks journey northward towards the Australian continent and up the coast of Australia to the tropics, with our southeastern Australian population moving on to Queensland for the winter. So like many of us that live in southern Australia, like to get away from the cold and go to the warmer regions for winter, so do our humpback whales. And up in the tropics, they socialize, they calve, they mate, and then they do migrate back down south for the Antarctic summer to feed back down in that region again. Another migratory whale that we do have along our southern Australian coastlines are the southern right whales. But unlike the humpback whale, the southern right whale migrates to the southern Australian coastline. It doesn't really move much further than that, and doesn't really move out of the temperate regions. In the winter, as with this migration, the southern right whales can be seen from Mallacoota in Victoria all through across the Great Australian Bight into Western Australia. And the southern right whales are identified by the paddle-shaped pectoral fin, which you can see on the image here. And they also have white markings along their heads, which are called callosities. And these callosities are unique to each individual whale. And we can use these callosities and their size and positioning to identify individual southern right whales, similarly to how we can use the nicks and notches of a dolphin's dorsal fin to identify that individual dolphin. And the graphic that you can see on screen is a really great representation of these migratory pathways that these humpback and southern right whales take. It's really also important to understand that importantly, it's understood, that there are distinct Eastern and Western Australian populations of these species, distinct Eastern Australian and Western Australian populations. You can see these populations both take different migratory pathways. But identifying these differences in these populations is really, really important to the conservation of these species, particularly the southern right whale, which is still classified as a critically endangered species, particularly the Eastern Australian population. And the last of the cetaceans and baleen whales, which I'd like to share with you all today, is one that most people don't realize we have here in southern Australian waterways, being the blue whale. And the blue whale is actually the largest animal known to have ever lived on the planet, measuring up to 32 meters in length. Here in Victoria, or in southeastern Australia, the pygmy blue whale, Brevicata, is the most common species of blue whale, and it is slightly smaller than the blue whale itself. And the image that I've got on the bottom left highlights all of the sightings of blue whales in Victoria through from the mid-1970s through to 2015. And as you can see across this 50-year period, blue whale sightings are quite infrequent. However, they do happen. Most recently in Sydney last year, a blue whale was sighted just off Sydney Harbour, which is thought to have been only the third, as you can see on the headline that I've got on screen here, the third sighting of a blue whale in Sydney in 100 years. So while they're not sighted every day, they are sighted every now and then, which is really exciting to know that we have this massive animal in our own watery backyards. And now let's move into some of our pinniped species. So firstly, I'd like to introduce you to the Australian fur seal. Now, the Australian fur seal can be found across the coastlines of southern and southeastern Australia, being South Australia, Victoria, Tasmania, and New South Wales. The Australian fur seal is the largest of all fur seals, with the male or the bull fur seals growing up to around 2 meters in length and weighing over 350 kilos. So these guys are massive. And as I mentioned, as with all pinnipeds, even though they're marine mammals and they do spend most of their lives in the water, seals don't stay in the water 24/7. They do need to hop out of the water every day to sleep and rest. And that means seeing seals across our coastline is incredibly common. They haul out in a number of different places. It might be sandy beaches, it might be rocky shorelines, it might even be man-made structures like piers or jetties, and you might come across a sleeping seal up on land. And again, we can see these guys in action. The way they move through the water is a little bit different to the way our cetaceans move. Seals tend to be a little bit more relaxed. You can see them floating on top of the surface, finning with their fins out of the water, regulating their temperature, warming up in the sun or cooling down in the wind. Very playful, very acrobatic, very beautiful, amazing animals. We do also have a number of different fur seals that do inhabit our Southeast Australian coastlines, as well as the Australian fur seal. We have the top left, the long-nosed fur seal, formerly known as the New Zealand fur seal, which is making its way from sort of the western parts of Australia further east. However, we've got other species that you might not think are found here in Australia, including the subantarctic fur seal, which, as the name suggests, is found in those subantarctic regions. But we do often see subantarctic fur seals here in our Australian coastlines, as well as the Australian sea lion as well. You see how cute these animals are. Moving on from the otarids into the phocids, the elephant seal, most commonly inhabiting Antarctic waters. Elephant seals are also known to be sighted here in southeastern Australian environments as well. Elephant seals, as you can see, are incredibly strange looking, identified by the large proboscis on their noses, hence the name. However, it's only the males that do have this protrusion, with the species displaying what's known as sexual dimorphism, and the females being a little bit, quite a lot smaller than the male elephant seals. And the last species that I'd like to introduce you to today is one of my favorite species, which is the Antarctic leopard seal. As the name suggests, again, the leopard seal is most commonly found in Antarctic waters. However, like the elephant seal, we do frequently sight leopard seals hauled out across our beaches in Victoria. And research that we've undertaken here at the Marine Mammal Foundation, we've been able to build a really strong picture of leopard seal sightings across the southeastern region. Leopard seals are predominantly silver in color, with black spots, hence their name. They're incredibly versatile predators with large jaws and sharp teeth to catch prey, such as penguins, fish, and other seals. However, it's actually been discovered that leopard seals are capable of suction or filter feeding, allowing them to suck up much smaller prey due to the unique shape of their teeth, which you can see on screen here, in a similar fashion to the baleen. And so these guys are absolutely amazing, and as I said, one of my favorite animals. So, although these are just a few, the tip of the iceberg of a few of the different marine mammal species found here in Victoria, I did mention that there are many, many more different species. While I don't have time to go into all of them today, I did want to highlight a few common, but also some less common species. However, most of our marine mammal species are classified as threatened, endangered, or critically endangered. And in the case of the Burrunan dolphin, critically endangered. As I've mentioned, marine mammals are incredibly difficult to study, and therefore there's lots of gaps in our knowledge across many different species. And our marine mammals, unfortunately, face many threats in their environment, most of which are anthropogenic or man-made. And so given we know so little about the animals who inhabit our coastline, it's really important that we're able to learn and study as much as we can to undertake effective conservation action. And so unfortunately, one of the biggest threats to our marine mammals is us and our behavior on the water. I've already mentioned that through our research, we understand that interactions with dolphins can alter their behavior, but also we can pose a physical danger to these animals through things like boat strike, as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, some animals that have been impacted by interactions with boats. And so it's important that when we're out on the water, we're following the regulations when in the presence of marine mammals. When boating in a powered or unpowered craft here in Victoria, we must remain 100 meters away from dolphins or whales, and jet skis must remain 300 meters away. And so this isn't only for the safety of the animals, but also for your safety, but it also gives the animals the choice to interact rather than being forced or herded into an interaction. And so by following these regulations, we can ensure that we're minimizing the harm that we cause to our marine mammals while still being able to enjoy them. And as I said, importantly, giving them the choice to interact. Unfortunately, we can also impact marine mammals in other ways. Litter and marine debris is a huge issue around the world, causing entanglements causing entanglements and death through things like ingestion. I'm sure we've all been to the beach and seen plastic littered on the sand or plastic or rubbish floating in the water. However, it's not just the litter that's already in the marine environment. Litter from our streets and our schools and our homes and our workplace and our communities can enter marine environments. and travel and disperse really long distances. So even if you live hundreds of kilometers away from the nearest beach, the litter that you see in your community can actually end up in these marine environments and harm the marine mammals who live there. And as I mentioned, this is a global issue. It's not just impacting our local marine environments. It's an issue and a threat that we see across the world harming our marine mammals. However, because we know that we are the problem, we know that we can be the solution to these threats. And the easiest way that we can care for our marine mammals right from our own local communities is in the form of simple actions. Small changes in our daily lives can lead to huge positive impacts for our environments and our marine mammals. Simple actions such as refusing to use single-use plastics like plastic bottles or takeaway coffee cups or plastic bags or straws, and using sustainable or reusable products instead helps us remove the billions of single-use plastics from entering the environment and entering landfill each year. Other actions might simply be picking up litter when you are out and about in your local community, or disposing of your litter and waste correctly. And these really small changes can have a really, really huge impact and positive impact on our marine environment. If you do happen to be out and about and spot a marine mammal, perhaps a marine mammal that's stranded on shore, there are a number of things you can do to assist in the welfare and support of that animal. You can contact your local state government department and the Dolphin and Whale hotline to report the incident here in Victoria with the number that you can see on screen. Here in Victoria, we also have the Zoo's Victoria Marine Response Unit, which is responsible for managing such incidents. And stranding events are a multi-agency approach. So the more information that we can have, the better we could all work together to make sure we can care for and assist animals that may strand on our beaches. However, it's not just strandings. Another great way to contribute your information and sightings and awareness of marine mammals across our local environments is through reporting your sightings. As I mentioned, there's still so much we have to learn about our local marine mammals. And while we would like to be out on the water all the time, everywhere, undertaking our research, it's impossible for us to do so. But you guys out in the community can help us and help build our understanding of our marine environments. You can log your sightings of marine mammals when you're out on the water, when you're walking along the beach and you see a seal or a dolphin swimming past, directly to us at the Marine Mammal Foundation. Through our Trackham website, but you can also jump onto our Facebook page, our Dolphin Spotting Victoria Facebook page, to share your sightings and hear about dolphins and marine mammal sightings from others around the state and around the country as well, which is really, really exciting. Continuing our conservation message, at MMF, we also believe that education is key to making a positive difference. If you don't know about something, you can't care about it and you can't make a difference and undertake that positive action. So we've developed and delivered a range of exciting school-based education programs for students all across the country to engage in, with all of our programs based in our Marine Mammal Foundation research, providing the opportunity for students to get hands-on with real science in the classrooms. Our programs are delivered as incursions to schools across Victoria, and now we're able to also deliver our programs to students all across the country through online platforms such as Zoom, as well as our exciting self-guided online course that we have. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about our school-based education programs and how to get involved, please jump onto our website and contact me, and I'll be happy to chat with you in a little bit more detail about them as well. And lastly, for those younger members of our audiences, there are also other ways that you can get involved. Our Marine Champions program is our flagship youth engagement program designed for young people aged 10 to 18 years. The program is designed for young people that love the environment and dream of becoming marine biologists when they grow up, like I did and still do. And our Marine Champions program is really amazing because we provide the opportunity for participants to get involved in a unique range of hands-on education and science-based learning experiences and hands-on action. Our Marine Champions program is run across both the Port Phillip and Gippsland Lakes regions here in Victoria, with activities across the school holidays. And now's the perfect time to get involved as we start to gear up for our exciting September school holiday-based program. So as you can see, you can jump onto the link on screen now, and you can get involved in our Marine Champions program. And alongside these direct engagement opportunities, there's a couple of other ways to contribute and support the work that we do here at MMF and the conservation of our marine mammals. As a not-for-profit organisation, all of our projects and work is funding dependent. We're reliant on community support to get out on the water for our research and run our education and engagement programs. The Marine Mammal Foundation, we're a ACNC registered charity and a DGR certified organisation, meaning all donations over $2 are tax deductible. And donations, small, large, all go directly to continuing our research, education, and conservation initiatives. And there's so many different ways that you can get involved and contribute and support the foundation. And if you would like to do this and learn a little bit more, please jump on and visit our website and learn about how you can get involved. And so that brings us to the end of our activity today. As mentioned, there are so many ways for you to continue your engagement with us here at the Marine Mammal Foundation and show you support for us and allow us to continue our work. You can jump on our website, you can adopt a dolphin, you can support our programs through your citizen science, logging a sighting when you're out on the water and see marine mammals, and jumping on our website to learn a little bit more about all the species that I've spoken to you today, and also about our research and conservation programs. I also encourage you to jump on and follow us at our social media pages, which is the best way to keep up to date with us at the foundation, and to see the incredible images and videos of us that we're able to collect when we're out on our research, and you can keep up to date with all of our work. And lastly, I'd like to thank and acknowledge all of our partner organisations for their ongoing support to our work as well, and acknowledge their contribution. And with that, I'd like to thank you all so much for coming along and joining us for our Science Week activity. What a great way to kick off our Monday morning. What a great way to kick off our week. It's been so fantastic to have so many of you here joining us from all across the country. It's been a real privilege to be able to present what I love with you all, and how lucky we are to live where we live. So thank you all so much, and I hope I've been able to entertain you through our current lockdown if you are in lockdown, or remote learning.